Hello everyone, this is Pokey Viking with a W, talking everything investing in Europe. Today I wanted to discuss the climbing prices over the years of specific, or rather, would I say, at least the best sealed products of each set, whether it's a special expansion, specialty set, or mainstream expansion throughout the years, and what you should or you can look towards when you're investing in sealed products and you are thinking of what would be your return on the investment throughout any kind of product, whether it's a good product or a bad product. Now, I have made the diligence and I gathered all the information for at least the Europe and European prices on cardmarket.com, where I looked at the current list pricings for every set in existence. Now, you're not going to go from the oldest one to the newest one, but rather the other way around, because I want to show you some really cool things that I found out during this endeavor. And it was a really kind of a nostalgia trip looking at all those products and their current states and prices and what are the amounts currently available on the markets. So something for you to look at in the span of time. Now, what I will be explaining is that all the sets are coming in three, or not three, in 3 years spanned eras. So whether it's Scarlet and Violet, Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, XY, Black and White, or what have you, until the very base set expansion, uh, there are good differences between each era, and I think those are good thresholds for you to look at when we go through the list now. Without further ado, if we look at the current set pricings, I know we are in a bullish kind of era, so the pricings are kind of higher than you would normally have them when you have like readily available products at MSRP. So this is not the case where we have MSRP because all the booster boxes and specialty sets are, I think, 2 times the normal MSRP price at the very start. So take this with a grain of salt and bear this in mind moving forward that this information is valid until a certain point, and the most important info is at the very end, or rather as we move upwards towards the older sets. Now, look at the pricings for Mega Evolution sets at the current era, normal as you can expect from the current pricings. So if we move a little bit backwards in time for the Scarlet and Violet era, the prices tend to be somewhat similar in a sense, but the key difference is here that there was this MSRP cost with ETBs and booster boxes. So the current pricings do resemble the current bull market prices of the Mega Evolutions era, but since there has some passed already some time, then you see that it actually has risen up by 100%. So, or at least in most cases, the minimum would be somewhere around like double, or even in some cases a little bit more. But if we are talking in the span of the 3 years, you can see that this is the case that what you can expect at least in the short-term investing time span when there's a bull market. Even if there's a bear market, the markets tend to move a little bit slower, but still the tendency will unfold as we move a little bit higher in the timeline. So looking at the current prices, nothing unusual. The only key benefactor from this era is, I think, the 151 set, which I guess is like to be expected. So moving on from this era, going back almost another 3 years, if we look at Crown Zenith, so it was January 2023, so it is a little bit more than 3 years now since the last Sword and Shield set. And you can see that the prices are a little bit higher here for the vast majority of the sets. Now, not all sets age the same, but you can start to notice that the pricings are in various sets higher. and those sets are the drivers of that era, the driving force. But even the other sets that don't have that huge of a coverage in terms of like, for example, nostalgia or like the chase cars or what have you, and that's at what is currently being valued at, the prices are still higher than the previous 3-year era. Now, I'm not going to touch upon like the differences when it comes to like Evolving Skies or something like that. Like that was the biggest set of that era. So even if we like compare this from like a very early perspective, what you can see here that there's always one key set that stands out. In this era, it was Evolving Skies. And the Scarlet and Violet, if we look at the pricings, it looks like the set 151 is the key or best investment that you could have done. So a little bit of a trend forming already. Now moving to the Sun and Moon era, it's year 2019, and already there is a huge leap, a huge gap forming in terms of the pricings. Now there is one additional zero in some of the cases, or rather the vast majority of them. So now we are in the region of 4 figures, or even like the top 3-figure costs for any kind of sealed product. Meaning, if you're looking at it from a time span perspective, if you are looking at gains from somewhere around this particular region of pricings, you just have to wait approximately like 5, 6, 7 years for you to reach your key um, selling point. But the thing is also like linearly thinking, if these prices tend to climb this way, there's also going to be less buyers for these kind of products, right? So bearing that in mind, if you are an investor, you should somewhat track your pricings and sellings according to what you feel like is the selling volume. Like now, card market doesn't have good exposure to this. We don't see like the selling volumes. We only see like the remaining products on the market, at least on that site. If that's a good indicator, probably if you're tracking it on a daily basis, then you would possibly know. These prices are only I've taken them only for English sets. So bear this also in mind. Now, moving 3 years more down the line, it looks like every set is now in 4 figures. So we are in 2016, so the 10-year mark tends to bring even better yields. So you can think of a long-term strategy being 10 years or even 6 years, depending on how risky you feel, I guess, or what the market currently is saying, if they are willing to buy at this price point. But still, as we move down the line, you can expect less of a buying power at this current stage, I would assume at least. Still, good enough price, because if we move 3 years more down the line, it gets a little bit hectic. Now, the linear growth here with XY was such that there were 4 figures already, but there was still some product. But with the black and white era, you can see that there's in some cases, no English product, or even like only boosters, or non-product at all, not even in any kind of language. So when I looked at this, I kind of realized like, hey, it doesn't probably even matter if you have a product in English, German, Italian, or whatnot. From this era, at least, almost all the products are gone-ish. And even moving upwards to the remaining eras, there's either one or two products in English, or it's already like the remainder of everything. It has a higher price tag naturally, but the higher you go, or even like the deeper you go into the past, there's less and less product, and it's only in the ranges of one or up to probably like 10 products total. So not even talking about English. And I labeled some of these also that there is zero English in some cases, or there are none available at all. So now we are in the Diamond and Pearl era. As you can see, nice price tags, but overall no product available. Moving even more down the line, we're in XY era, or EX series, if I recall that. I don't even recall those sets because I wasn't in the hobby back then. So no product available at all. One, or maybe like if for X Fire Red, Leaf Green, I saw probably like four products, which I think is an anomaly just because there was this re-release of the game Fire Red and Leaf Green on the Nintendo Switch. So probably that's the reason why some of these come up. But from the E-card series, that is, there's no products. And from the last remaining two eras, there are some products still remaining at this price tags. Now, the base set should be 39,000. I don't know why it has been saved like this. Oh, right, I know now. So it has this dot. And since we are in Europe, dots are treated differently. Yeah, so we have commas when we separate the thousands from the hundreds. So overall key takeaway from all of this is the more down the line you go, the less products there are. So can we expect that eventually all the product will be bought out, regardless of language, regardless of quality of the boxes, regardless of anything? Because these older sets, they are somewhat, if we look at 2013, like they're not even 15 years old and they're virtually non-existent on the market. The blue chip, which is the base set and Jungle and Fossil and whatever from that era, like the first actual era of Pokemon cards, even like the second era, the Neo Genesis era. These are some of the blue chips of that era. So I think people, I don't know if they recognize the opportunity and kept them, or if they bought them from the US with the current hype cycles and they just store them and are selling them here. I wouldn't imagine someone has done that, but probably there are some. But with the amounts currently available, I am leaning towards that everything might possibly get bought out at a certain point, no matter the price tag. If someone really wants that booster box or ETB or whatever from a specialty set, then I guess eventually someone will buy that. But for you that is coming into the hobby, like myself, I'm currently in the 6 year mark, which is somewhere, and I began, I think, at Vivid Voltage, if I recall correctly. It was somewhere in the, I don't know, maybe it was already in Darkness Ablaze or somewhere at the end of Darkness Ablaze, because I remember Champion's Pad and Vivid Voltage, and I remember buying those. So if I were to sell those right now after 6 years, I would have made somewhere around what the current booster boxes and elite trainer boxes are worth. And if I were to buy Evolving Skies, which I didn't because I still didn't have the capital for that, I didn't really know what I was doing, then I would have made a little bit more. But still, it's 6 years down the line. I know I sold like Chilling Reign at 200 or something like that. So if I were to held on to it for a couple of more years, I would make double. But I'm I don't have any shame on saying that I sold it at a lower price point. So it's still something to think about, like, hey, Scarlet and Violet is over. We know that the sets are going out of rotation right now. The price should spike, question mark. We don't know if they will spike. They will eventually grow a little bit, but in terms of the overall growth, if we compare it to Sword and Shield, the spike is somewhere in this range. For someone, it's actually something to look forward to, but someone with a long-term mindset would look at least for like a 6 year span of holding items, because I think this is somewhere of a middle ground where people still have somewhat of a capital to buy these. And if you are a normal working person, which the majority of us are, and you are a collector of sealed products, I assume you would still want to collect sealed product even at this price point, just because of the fact that if you're if you want to have a full collection of each era and you missed out, then this is basically your price tag and it's somewhat reachable. I mean, I can imagine buying other things for that, but for the actual collectors, it's something still achievable or attainable. And even in like longer spans of additional plus 3 years, but if I look at the higher tax, then I guess that's already getting too much ahead of myself. So there you go. That's all I wanted to show you, something to look for in terms of the amounts of years that you want to invest. And if you are the type of investor to hold long term and you believe in the market and you also feel like there's buying power or enough buying power in Europe to buy out all these products at each specific point, then you can act accordingly to this data because this is factual. This is what the current market holds. And overall, you can adjust your strategy based upon that, your waiting strategy, that is. So I wish, I guess, all of you good luck at whichever point you decide to sell your product. If you found yourself somewhere within these ranges, you can at least expect how long you need to wait approximately for your price tag to be reached. And hopefully it does, and hopefully you'll find a buyer for them. So that's about it. That's all I wanted to say for today. I hope you will have a good weekend, and this is Poke Viking with a W, and I will catch you next time.